Today, we need to talk about HP inflation in Wuthering Waves. This topic is making a lot of people really angry right now. And honestly, I get it. It's annoying, I admit it. Even I struggle from time to time with certain teams. Teams that used to clear the tower or my daily routine in WoWA easily. Nowadays, I can barely get anything done with those same teams. It's super frustrating. Unless, of course, I switch to the newest characters. Then it's easy cake again. But let's look at the real reason why Kuro Games is actually doing this. A lot of people don't want to understand it. Or they just can't. Most people think there's some big conspiracy behind it. But honestly, that's not the case. It's simply because Kuro Games is forced to release a new character every single month. And these characters have to be good, because if they weren't good, why would anyone pull for them? Am I right or am I wrong? These characters need to give you a reason to spend your resources. Either they give massive buffs so your main DPS suddenly hits for 850,000 damage instead of 400,000, or they just deal so much damage from the start that they are completely insanely broken without any buffs at all. Kuro Games has to calculate and balance these things every single month. They have to give you an incentive to pull. This means characters will always get better and stronger. And if characters get stronger, the bosses just have to have more HP to survive. That is completely normal. Unfortunately, a lot of people complain about this, especially low spenders or free-to-play players who don't put a single cent into the game. They are the ones who get left behind. But you have to realize one thing. Gacha games, whether it's your beloved WoWA, Zenless Zone Zero, or Genshin Impact, all gachas are pay to win at the end of the day. All of them. If you have money, you progress. If you don't, you're out of luck. It doesn't matter how generous Kuro is with the pulls. In the end, it's still pay to win. Let's look at the psychological illusion here. Many free-to-play players have developed a massive entitlement complex. Because the download button in the App Store is free, they genuinely believe they have a right to access 100% of the game's content, including the hardest endgame, at maximum efficiency. But that's a complete logical fallacy. Free-to-play is a trial mode. It's a demo that lets you play the story and explore the world for free. But the moment you enter the competitive or endgame loop, you are entering the premium section. You wouldn't walk into a 5-star restaurant, drink the free tap water, and then complain that the steak costs money, right? But that is exactly what people are doing here. And let's address the biggest cope in the community, the skill argument. A lot of F2P players scream, asterisk, but WoWA is a skill-based action game. I should be able to clear everything just by dodging and parrying. Look, I love the combat in this game, but let's get real. At its core, a gacha game is a mathematical stat check, dressed up as an action game. It's a live service resource management simulator. If your raw damage output mathematically cannot deplete a boss's HP bar within the time limit, no amount of perfect dodging is going to save you. Spreading this illusion that skill solves everything is just a massive cope to avoid the reality that your free account simply hit its mechanical and mathematical limit. Don't get me wrong, WoWA actually is very generous. I've been playing since day one, and even though I only buy the Lunite subscription, I still managed to save up around 400 pulls. That's just from my subscription and grinding events. That's all I do. Of course, all my maps are at 100%, but in a game like Genshin Impact, you can't just farm 400 pulls like that, because the game simply doesn't give you that much. WoWA just takes a different path here. You have to be honest. The game is pretty fair, but, and here is the core issue, they can be as fair as they want. At the end of the day, they are still a company that needs to make money, and you can't make money if you do what a lot of people are asking for, which is buffing old characters from patch 1.0 by 50%. I've read stuff like that in the comments, and it's just total nonsense. Economically speaking, that is the dumbest thing a company could ever do. They will never do it. They will never buff old characters. Think about how traditional live service games work. If you play an MMO like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, you pay a monthly subscription fee just to log in, plus you have to buy every new expansion. If you don't pay, you can't play, period. Gacha games just shifted the monetization model. Instead of forcing everyone to pay $15 a month, they let the casuals play for free while the spenders fund the entire operation. The paying players are literally subsidizing the experience for everyone else. If the spenders stop seeing a reason to pull because old characters remain dominant, the revenue drops to zero, and the game dies. HP inflation isn't a bug, it's the economic engine that keeps the servers running. And let's look at a concrete example of how distorted this community mindset actually is. Look at the upcoming Cyberpunk Edgerunners collaboration. Kuro Games is literally giving Rebecca away for free. Let's think about this calmly for a second. A massive crossover deal like this costs millions of dollars in licensing fees that Kuro had to pay up front. Not a single cent of that money came from free-to-play players. It was entirely funded by the people purchasing bundles and subscriptions. Yet, the F2P player base contributes absolutely nothing to this multi-million-dollar project, gets a premium crossover character completely handed to them for free, and then still goes online to complain that the game is unfair because of endgame HP scaling. Honestly, if we look at it logically, the community should be incredibly grateful for how Kuro is handling this. Continuing to attack the developers under these circumstances is just completely ungrounded and unfair to the company. Also, think about it from the perspective of a paying customer, the people actually keeping the lights on. If a whale spends $500 to max out the newest, shinier character, and then logs into the endgame only to see that a 1.0 free character clears the stage at the exact same speed because Kuro buffed them for free, why would that whale ever spend money again? Doing what the F2P community wants would actively insult and alienate the actual paying customer base. It makes absolutely no sense to ruin your relationship with the people who pay your salary just to please a crowd that prides itself on never spending a single dime. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of HP inflation either. I'm just explaining the logic behind why they do it. They aren't doing it to annoy you on purpose, but the fact that it automatically frustrates players who don't spend money is completely normal and expected. You can't avoid it. It is what it is. Gachas are pay to win. And there is one more thing I want to tell you. If you don't like this system, it's not going to get better in the future. Bosses aren't suddenly going to have 30% less HP. This is a trend that will continue in the next patches. Bosses will get more complex and even stronger. If you don't like that, starting a petition is completely useless. The only real thing you can do about it is to uninstall the game. That is literally the only power you have. And honestly, I've read so many posts on Reddit lately where people are crying and typing stuff like, asterisk, if this HP inflation continues, I am going to delete the game and uninstall it. Let's all do it together so Kuro listens to us. Let me tell you the brutal truth. If you are a strict free-to-play player and you decide to leave, you are actually doing Kuro Games a massive favor. Think about it. As a $0 player, you bring exactly zero revenue to the company. You don't pay for the servers, you don't pay for the developers, you don't pay for massive upcoming updates. You are literally just consuming server capacity and causing maintenance costs without giving anything back. Every single patch requires gigabytes of data transfer, server maintenance, localized customer support, and bug fixes. All of that costs real money every single second. If a player only consumes these resources but never contributes a single cent to the ecosystem, they are a net negative on the company's balance sheet. They are dead weight. They aren't funding the artists who design the beautiful maps, or the musicians who compose the soundtrack, or the writers who craft the story. They are just riding along for free on someone else's paycheck. So these dramatic "I'm quitting the game" boycotts, they achieve absolutely nothing. Kuro won't even notice you're gone, because you were never on their financial radar anyway. If you leave, you just reduce their server load and save them money on bandwidth. That's it. And let's be real here. Switching to another gacha game won't help you either. Other gachas do the exact same thing because there is no other way. These bosses and characters need to be balanced every single month. If HP inflation didn't exist, you would just one-shot every boss with the newest characters. Where is the fun in that? You know what I mean? So that's pretty much my take on this. I know people love to argue about it and get mad, but in the end, if you play a gacha game and you are strictly free to play, you just lose in the long run. That's the hard truth. You can still enjoy the game, watch the story, explore the map, that's all fine. But endgame content? In the long run, endgame content is not made for people who don't spend money. You just have to be honest about it. And if you don't like it, the only option left is to uninstall. Anyway, that's my opinion on the whole topic. Take care, and see you in the next one.